Hi, it's Kevin May from PhocusWire. So in the big chair, which is our regular series of kind of profile interviews with leaders in this industry, we've brought it into the live environment here because we can. And because you're here,
you got the biggest chair.
Rather bizarrely, I have the big chair.
Yeah.
So in the less big chair with us this week, for this episode, is Stephan Ekberg, you're the CEO of TravelStart. So we're just going to chat about things and learn a little bit about you and your kind of history and the businesses and stuff like that. So I say respectfully that you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
We can come
I don't
back
know
to,
if that's a good or a bad thing, to be honest, but
well, let's say it's a good thing. Okay, we can talk about your previous life, which I find just as interesting, maybe at the end. But in all the years that you've been doing this, Stephan, what's been the easiest part of what you've had to do?
I think the easiest thing was probably when we started up in South Africa. So prior to that, we had been going. Prior to TravelStart, me and it's now a very good friend of mine, Marcus. We started Mr. Jet, which was the first sort of proper OTA in I would say probably Northern Europe, and it was so damn hard because there was nothing. I mean, there was no off-the-shelf technologies. There was, of course, no payment connectors. You didn't know how to do that. You didn't know how to get supply into, in an environment where people could, book it online. And of course, the airlines and hotels, they didn't want to work with you. So you had to really invent everything from scratch. And I said, every day was like, an incredible uphill battle. Then I was fired by those investors a year later, and I went on to start TravelStart. And now I'm sort of in an environment where, so this is now 98. And it was still very early days. So consumer adoption hasn't really started, but there was a big buzz around, .com and all that stuff. So there was money flowing into this thing, which started to become like a little bit of a ecosystem, which they call it today, which didn't exist that word back then. And now, so I was rejected because I was fired. I had a family to support, and I needed to build a company, and I was filled with, lust for revenge, and so I had all those things coming against me, and I needed to do all this stuff against. But of course, it got a little bit easier this time because now I'd done it once before. So I built one OTA before. Now I just needed to do it, but this time without money.
Okay.
And so,
but you did it without money, but you would have learned from the mistakes of the
exactly.
first.
So now, and also I built a little bit of a cred, so I could use the cred, the credibility, the fact that I've built something before to get technology providers and others to extend me credit, and so I used that very well, I must say, and then but it was still an uphill battle for quite a few years. Then fast forward to, so this is now 98, 99, and then 2006 when I opened up in South Africa. Now I'd done it a few times before, from scratch. In South Africa was sort of, not really taken off yet, but I knew exactly how to do it.
So you had the model.
I had the model, and I'd done it before, and I was filled with self-confidence. I basically marched in there and said, guys, sorry, it's game over, and it was. So I would say, starting up there, that was the easiest thing that I've ever done.
See, that surprises me because you would have assumed going to not only another country but another continent, and you moved your family and everything.
Yeah.
Would actually be hard personally and for a company to just transplant yourself into a new country.
Yeah, but you know what? No, I mean also, on that point, I get it. It's of course because of my wife. I mean, she took care of the family and the kids. So, I mean, she in the beginning, the early days, she took a harder strain than I did. Because she had to make sure that the family and all that stuff worked out. And I mean, mind you, I still had the business in Sweden to run. So I was, flying between Sweden and South Africa, and that's not a that's not a short commute, to say the least.
Right.
So but it worked out well because I had the self-confidence and I knew how it worked, and that worked against us when we started to do, try this playbook in other countries in Africa, because I thought, shit, this is so easy. I've done it so many times before. It was almost like we had to, repeat some of the same mistakes. But we've been so focused on frontier markets where everything is needed, and so it's really that you have to, we're building a high-tech engine to go on gravel roads, and that doesn't work.
Right.
So we need to build the roads.
Why have you focused on frontier markets? Just because you see the opportunity?
Or
is it because often there are incumbents in other countries that you sense that you can't compete with?
No, I think very much it's because of me and my team's personality. We like pioneering. That's sort of what we love. And we just did a workshop here, because there's so many new people in our company, and so we just did a workshop here a couple of weeks ago, and to find out, what really, get this organization going, and it was all about pioneering, and so it's still there in the DNA, and I think that's what we love, and unfortunately, I think pioneering is quite misunderstood because. Often you go to places where you actually shouldn't be.
Like where?
No, I mean, the question is, would I do Nigeria again today? No, probably not. But now we've cracked it, and now we're doing well. But it was,
at the time it was terrible.
6 years of absolute nightmare. But now we've cracked it. So now, of course, I think it's a little bit like women, when they have a baby, it's so terrible, but once that little wonderful thing comes out there and you form a family, they forget about the pain, and so I think
maybe we should ask your wife that particular question. Perhaps.
No, but I've asked her.
Okay,
I've asked her. She told me. It's so you forget about the pain, and I think as an entrepreneur as well, you forget about the pain.
Yeah. So I like this idea of being pioneers and going into these new markets. Do you think those that have come behind you have looked at how you did it and learned from your mistakes? And I guess the follow-up question is, have you been toppled by any others that you've in a country where you started?
So on your first part, if we have if we have inspired others, absolutely. Absolutely, we both, I know for a fact that, when I go to some of these that are not really emerging markets now, but, like Poland and Czechoslovakia and some of those countries, they have had entrepreneurs that said, you were the one that inspired us to start up locally here. So, that's something that I, as an entrepreneur, probably take great pride in. I love when you can be an inspiration for people to do something that they didn't think that they were capable of doing.
Right.
And I think on the other side, if we've been toppled, hell yeah. We were the first OTA in Brazil. I'll tell you that. We were the first OTA in Brazil, but we failed miserably. And look at Despegar and all these guys there.
What happened? Why did you fail?
Look, our organization was too small to handle it, and it was a big market, and we underestimated everything. So I think that we underestimated the complexity, also the fact that no one in our key team spoke Portuguese and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. So
and there have been many other countries in the Baltics. We were there also the first player in the Baltics. Eventually some local guys, they emerged and did it much better than us, and so we packed up and left.
Yeah.
And we were very early in Turkey. We failed there as well. Local guys, they copied what we did and did it much better than us. So
okay.
So we packed up.
I sense
I
that you
could make this a long list.
Yeah, no, please do. No, I sense you probably don't take it personally, and you dust yourself down and move on quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to.
Okay. But when the first one, did you take it? Oh, that's terrible. Or have you always had the attitude that
No.
Okay, we messed that one up. Let's move on.
So my father is Hungarian, and in Eastern Europe, people tend to see that the glass is always half empty. So that's my route. I can tell you, it's taken me hours of counseling to rewire my brain.
Okay.
By shrinks and priests and people to rewire my brain and my heart, because so my father was basically if I came home and told him something great, he would say, "Oh, that's wonderful," and then the next breath it was, "But I'm sure it's going to fail somehow." and he wasn't saying that because to be mean. But I understand from the wars and the revolutions and the
Right.
Russians and the Nazis. I understand where he comes from. They had only seen grief and pain all their lives, so I get it.
Okay. And you've now successfully rewired everything.
Yes,
have you?
no, that's so I in 2001 I went to some Christian psychologists in Florida.
Okay.
That I'd read about that were really good at fixing you. And so I went there for 2 days, and I told them about my behaviors and all this stuff, and somehow that set me up on a road to to be more positive about myself and the future in general, and all those things.
Okay. It would be a nice note to end on, but we haven't finished yet. So we've got some. These are our other kind of.
I can say it one more time later. Okay.
Maybe if we get to it. Okay. So some other questions then, so we can get a sense a little bit more about you. So, you're explaining the industry to a new employee. Complete this sentence. Beware of the
complexity when it comes to gathering supply.
Okay.
Or I would say it in different words. I would say supply is a bitch.
Okay. What's the one thing that you're better at, professionally or otherwise, than anyone else?
So I think I'm quite good at spotting talent.
Okay.
I think I'm quite good at seeing what people are good at before they know it themselves.
Okay. I thought you might say DJing because that was your career prior to.
So I can say that as well, but I wouldn't say that I'm better than anybody else at that. But I'm probably one of the best in online travel on DJing. I can tell you that.
Maybe we should go back to back one of these days because I do it a little bit as well. So, if you weren't in travel, what company would you like to be a part of and why?
I want to be a writer, just like you. So I wouldn't want to be part of any company. I would want to be a writer, writing fiction about the wonders of doing business.
Okay. What would be the title of your first book?
Actually, the title of my first book is already something that I'm writing now. It's called Startup Stories.
Okay.
Defining Moments.
Okay. How many chapters?
So it's going to be, so the first one is going to be a collection of essays on defining moments of, certain companies. Everything from big companies like IBM to small, scrappy startups that never took off, and it's going to be based on real stories. So there's a lot of fictional elements in it as well.
So small and scrappy startups that never took off. There are arguably quite a few of them in this industry that you could.
Yeah, but it's going to be sort of stuff that happened back in the 1400s. Stuff that happened in the 1960s. Stuff that's happening now. So it's going to be collection. So my thought was that collect defining moments when a person saw something happen and took a decision, and that set the company up on a completely new trajectory or that trajectory.
Okay. So last question then, Stephan. What one mistake do you witness others in the industry making more than anything else?
Yeah, so they look at the industry and they say, wow, what a big industry, you know, there sure as hell must be an opportunity here. And I think that the biggest mistake, they underestimate the complexity of supply.
Okay.
Of connecting all this stuff and actually even getting supply to talk to you.
Indeed. Okay. Stephan Ekberg, ex-DJ and CEO at TravelStart. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You.